The festive season might be festiving. However, we do need to talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to this holiday period in The Sims 4, because I personally think that holidays need a good hard look at themselves. And I know it's unlikely that we're ever gonna get pack refreshes or anything like that in the game again. I still think it was a weird decision for them to start those off with Spa Day, because I could have told them that that probably wasn't gonna give them the numbers that they wanted it to give. I don't even think that holidays needing a fix or a refresh, however you want to frame this video, could even count as a pack refresh, because it's just one very specific thing that came in seasons that actually hasn't been updated or has really any cross-pack compatibility, not even with the pack that it was really introduced with. I first off just wanted to take a look at the calendar, because obviously this came in the base game. This was actually introduced, I don't even know when, but I know that it has since been introduced into base game. However, holidays are still only part of seasons. You can only celebrate holidays if you have The Sims 4 seasons. We're gonna mostly focus on winter. Obviously, we are in winter right now. The only holidays that are actually in this period officially are Winterfest and then also New Year's Eve. I had to doubt myself then, because I've also added New Year's Day, and I've also edited up these two to kind of show how you can actually get the most out of wintertime holidays if you only have, for example, base game and seasons. Now, I've actually added Winterfest Eve. Winterfest originally had Festive Spirit, Grand Meal, Father Winter, and Decorate. But obviously, I've changed it up to Festive Spirit, Open Presents, Grand Meal, Party Spirit, and Give Gifts. And that's because I've also added Winterfest Eve, which is kind of like your Christmas Eve celebration. And I figured it kind of made more sense for Father Winter to actually appear the night of Christmas Eve. He's gonna visit at 8 p.m. and he will just give you your gifts like straight up. You can ask him for a present and he will gift it to you. So I guess it's kind of like a Christmas Eve present. You unfortunately can't like place it under your tree and wait for tomorrow, but I just thought it was slightly more realistic than waiting till 8 p.m. on Winterfest actual day. So we're using the day to decorate festive lighting. Click on a holiday tree, menorah, or canara and select light candle. Tell stories. Gather around, tell your favorite stories. It's much more interactive than reading a book. I personally just really love this because obviously you can have the stories about like Father Winter, maybe tell stories of like Christmases past, and then we also have fire. The crackling flames inspire primal celebration. To participate, light a bonfire, campfire, fireplace, burn a leaf pile, then interact with any of these sources of fire. So you can warm yourself against the fire if you wanted to. You could do a campfire and go and roast marshmallows out in the snow. I kind of do wish that you could also roast marshmallows using a fireplace. I feel like that feels like such a wintry activity. My name is the English Simmer and it jumped out because instead of Boxing Day, I've added Boxers Day, and Boxing Day is kind of personal to whoever you speak to. Some people have to work on Boxing Day. My heart goes out to you lot. Trust me, I've worked it before. I know how it feels, especially those of you in retail. I love you. But in my household, it's kind of, we get everyone together after Christmas, we bring leftovers, we play the games and like the toys that people have received, and really it's just about spending time with the family and kind of a aftermath of Christmas. We basically just love the feeling of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, so we try to extend it as much as possible. So I've just chosen games, Party Spirit, and Thankful Spirit. I've already talked about New Year's Eve actually being an official celebration within the game, but I have edited it, and this is kind of just to give you some ideas of how you could play around and customize these and make them, I guess, slightly more realistic with the limitations that we have in these holidays, which I'm gonna get into, don't worry. So for New Year's Eve, I've done Party party spirit, countdown to midnight, which was already a thing. Drinking, obviously you don't have to drink, but this can be a holiday tradition if you want it to be. And then invite guests. And then for New Year's Day, this is a holiday that I've actually added. I've done cleaning, exercise, make resolutions. Those are all kind of self-explanatory. I feel like a lot of people like to think of the new year as bringing in new habits. Let me know your resolutions down below for 2025. Then I have also decided to be inspired by my personal New Year's Day, which we actually always go and watch a charity fundraiser New Year's Day dip, which is on a beach in North Wales. People run into the sea, they raise money for the RNLI. So I've added polar bear plunge. It's freezing out, but the water hasn't completely iced over. Perfect time for a swim. To participate, swim in any outside pool whilst it's cold. And then also water fun. When the weather heats up, it ain't gonna be heating up. But hey, if you are able to do these, it might actually disallow you from doing these in winter, especially if you live in a world that has snow. These two are usually quite difficult because Sims will either freeze to death or they just like won't want to do those activities. But you can definitely play around. I know I've been able to do it before. It feels weird that you have to do it in a pool and you can't really just like go out into a lake, but some of them freeze in the game. It's a whole thing. I think it's weird that they included this but had limitations on the gameplay, but you can get around it if you have a pool. And really quickly, just before we get into the other limitations, these are just some other ideas that I have. Baking day, I like to have a day dedicated to baking like mince pies for my family just before we get into like the actual holiday period. So baking, art and music spirit, and then also cozying up by the fire. You can have Hanukkah and also Kwanzaa within the game. We do have a menorah. We do also have a Kanara. Definitely some restrictions when it comes to food. I would prefer this if it maybe said like feast or like just have the option in holidays to be able to like cook food or serve food. I don't know why it's only limited to a grand meal, because the grand meal only has certain food options available to you, and I personally just wish that that was more inclusive, especially when it came to holidays. So potentially you might not want to use the grand meal because it does kind of limit you, but unfortunately there's nothing else to do with eating, which I personally find a little bit ridiculous. But then I also added art and music spirit, light the menorah, and then also open presents. You could have this spanning across multiple days. We have the do-gooders day, which is baking. I was kind of thinking maybe if you bake and then you can go out onto the street and like provide people with food, which is quite cute. You can gift it to people, give gifts, and thankful spirit for one another. Unfortunately, again, this definitely has limitations. You weirdly, even though we have it within the game, you can't donate to charities. You also can't go and volunteer. Those aren't actual options that you have within the holiday activities that you can do. These are genuinely so restricted. This video idea originally was just like giving you custom holidays that you could maybe create within your game to make this time of year maybe a little bit more accurate to you or your friends or your family. And then I quickly realized just how limited all of these activities were and was like, wow, you really can't do an awful lot with holidays in The Sims 4. Like, they actually get super repetitive if you start to add more onto them, which is really unfortunate. And then in turn, that inspired the topic of this video of the fact that holidays actually probably need a refresh and definitely more cross-pack compatibility. And then we also have Kwanzaa. Again, I've gone for grand meal. If you don't really feel like doing that, then unfortunately there's not really anything else right now in the game that is providing it. Like the Kanara, art and music, give gifts, and open presents. I've already spoken about a couple of different ones that I would like to see. I really think that eating food, serving food, cooking food should all honestly be options within holiday traditions. I also think donating and volunteering. You can't even carve pumpkins, even if you have spooky stuff carving pumpkins isn't an option. If you have cottage living, like harvesting pumpkins isn't an option, which to be fair, there isn't really cross-pack compatibility between those two. You kind of just need to use your imagination and you need to have your Sims go harvest and then pretend that they're using those pumpkins to then carve. Making and creating different items, be it woodworking, fabrication, candles, there's a ton of hobbies. Knitting, crocheting, any of that. Every single one of those like creating crafts that we have within the game could be a holiday tradition. There's no option to get any of the collections in the holiday traditions. Even playing with toys, that definitely would be a thing that I would use for Winterfest and also Boxers Day. Like I said, there's also barely compatibility even between holidays and seasons, which is wild considering that's the expansion pack that they were introduced in, but there's none to be able to like collect leaf piles or burn leaf piles or play in leaf piles. Beach cleans if you have island living, snowball fights, ice skating, they're both available in seasons, so why can't we, like, for example, throw a snow day? Go sledging if you have snowy escapes, skiing, snowboarding, rock climbing, any of those. We need more hobbies in these holiday traditions. And hear me out before you hear my wedding stories and go absolutely wild down in the comments, because I know none of us like that pack. I do kind of think that holidays should have the customization that both funerals that we got in Life and Death and my wedding stories weddings have. I think that you should be allowed to choose more than 5 holiday traditions, and I don't really know why they haven't updated holidays to kind of have that gameplay around them. That would definitely be a hope for me in the future, because if they are ever going to give us more holiday traditions that we can actually pull from, I would like to be able to do more than 5. 5 feels very, very restrictive, even currently with like the lack of holiday activities that you can do. But there's also no cross pack really between those 2 packs that I mentioned and those events I mentioned and then holidays. So with funerals, you can now pour out libations. You can't do that as a holiday, even though a lot of holidays do have that as part of it. You can't have a moment of silence, toasting, eulogies. You want to do those for your holidays? Too bad. You can do them in either a wedding or a funeral. Which, speaking of, there's also not really cross compatibility between both of those. I don't know why they haven't really taken into account all of these kind of functions that we can do and then kind of just like group them together and given us the best of all of the worlds, as Hannah Montana would say. Fear not though, modders are here to help you out. I've never played with any of these mods, but I know a lot of people who do, and I think I'm actually gonna start playing with them from this point forward, purely for aesthetic reasons. Zerbu has actually created the more selectable icons. This isn't only for holidays, this is also for clubs. It also includes SimTuber avatars in case you have high school years and lifestyle brands if you have Get Famous. They're actually a celebrity perk that you can get. Does exactly what it says on the tin. Don't worry, you're not going to be getting tricked like I did when my mum brought out a dairy milk tin and I got so excited that I was going to get chocolates and then it was a tin full of mince pies, which aren't my favorite. These are the regular icons that we can choose from, and then obviously this adds a bunch. So for baking day, I could choose an oven if I wanted to. I could choose BB Rexa. I'm fairly sure this is BB. I mean, I don't know what you're getting up to, but apparently you're gonna have a magical evening. There's so many to choose from. I mean, I could go on and on. Who is this man? I will have links to all of these mods down below. Next up, we have mix and match mods, which is really, really nice. This is by Kiara Sims 4 Mods. Kiara has actually gone through and added a bunch of holiday traditions that don't actually exist within the game. And these are all separate, so you can really just like go through all of these and just download what you want to download. They're all available on Sim File Share. I highly suggest getting them off some file share Free Palestine, but Kiara has actually done a bunch that I actually personally wanted, such as a beach cleanup. You also have the carving pumpkins. You can collect beeswax, maybe if you want to gift some honey to people and you are a beekeeper. I've never tried to play as a beekeeper in my game. There is actually, I think, a beekeeper custom aspiration that I at least had or still have that I probably should try out at some point. Collecting honey, again, donating, woodworking. You all know how I feel about woodworking. There's also ones that relate to occults, so you can actually duel, eat cultural dishes, pizza, go camping, go hiking. Obviously, a ton of hobbies are included in this. If you want to have maybe like Parents' Day to celebrate like Mother's and Father's Day, then you can have like hug parent, give gifts, maybe do a hobby with them that they love. I think this opens up so many opportunities for different types of holidays. Thank you, Kiara, for this. And finally, there is also MSQ Sims. This is more holiday traditions. This is again just like a bulk thing that you download, but then once you actually go into the file, all of them are split up into different packages. So you can pick and choose what you actually want in your game. You can just drag and drop them into your mods folder. Just to show you how this is currently looking in my mods folder, I have beach cleanup, woodworking, puppet show. I figured you could also maybe do a holiday where it feels like you're going to watch a pantomime and then your kids come home, they can do a puppet show, they can like play with makeup, skiing, snow angels, snowball fights. Again, I was kind of focused on the wintry stuff just because of when I'm recording this. Children during holidays, children during seasons, they're all things that children can do actually on an activity table. They can make specific decorations for specific holidays. Again, from both of those mods, this list has got a lot better. So we have bake cookies, we have carved pumpkin, collect a new snow globe. Maybe you just have a National Snow Globe Day, which I'm fairly sure is probably a thing in the real world. It's bizarre that go skating and go sledging aren't actually options that we officially have within the game. They just so feel like they should be there. With donating, you can donate to charity online to complete the tradition. With volunteering, one of the most important traditions on this holiday, complete this tradition, start a bake sale, participate in beach cleanup, visit a nursing home, lend a hand in the soup kitchen, or walk to fight a disease, go alone or gather some friends and family to give back to your community. Keep in mind that some of these either will need maybe other mods on top of them if they're not actually included within your game or the packs that you have, or you have to have the pack required. So for example, you have to have seasons obviously to be able to throw a holiday and choose that tradition, and then you also need to have parenthood that actually comes with volunteering, but you can send up to 8 household members to a volunteer activity, and then this is where you can choose what you do. It just sends them to a little rabbit hole, but hey, it feels like you are doing good in your Sims world and definitely matches up with do-gooders. Unfortunately, for those of you who are either playing on console or playing on PC and Mac who can't download mods and custom content, that kind of isn't a fix for you, which I do apologize about, but I did want to include mods and custom content for those who could download them to make the most out of holidays. However, this is why I would just like the Sims team in general to like take a look at holidays. Honestly, now that we know we're not getting a Sims 5 and Project Rene isn't the Sims 5, I mean, we still don't know if we're ever gonna not get a Sims 5 in the future, but we know that Project Rene isn't it. And they said that there's still content to come to The Sims 4 for many more years, and it definitely feels like they want this to be the running game. I really feel like in the next few years, they need to focus on like expanding the actual core of this game. They need to physically go back to other packs, make them work better with other packs, add more pack integration, give different options things, expand things, take a look at all the different systems, see how they can streamline those a little bit better for people who do have certain packs. Honestly, I just think it needs like a major overhaul, and they really need to get the foundations like fully set up for how they can expand this game in the future for those of us who already have many a pack. As I was trying to make this video, it became glaringly obvious that holidays are definitely falling behind, and I just wish that they could do something with them and that they will do something with them. I'm not promising anything. This was pretty much here's a list of my demands and what I would like to see when it comes to holidays. It's kind of like a little wish list, I guess, to Father Winter, wherever they may be listening from. Hopefully Maxis Studios in Redwood. Lastly, I always mention this when I talk about parties needing an update, but I do feel like holidays need the same treatment. And I guess this could also be tied into neighborhood stories, because I just want the world to feel more alive, and currently it doesn't feel that way. I mentioned in my video just yesterday, I really wish that if you invited friends, family, whoever over for holidays, then they actually partook in those traditions. Obviously, you could throw a party and therefore they kind of partake in some of the stuff that you can do in a party, but I would love it if, say, you invited a bunch of friends and family over for Winterfest, if you had give gifts and also receive gifts. I wish it worked the same way as baby showers in Growing Together, where guests would come over and they would autonomously give your sim gifts and your sim would open them. Obviously, we do kind of have that when it comes to birthdays, because sometimes family members will send certain gifts in the post, but they don't visit your house. Even if you throw a birthday party, they're not actually coming up to the birthday sim, even though the game knows that they are the birthday sim. Like, we fully choose them as the birthday sim whilst we are planning it. They don't give them presents. I also wish that townies, friends, families, whoever it may be, would also invite you to their holidays. Like, I wish that they would pick up the phone if you're having Winterfest and be like, hey, we're having Winterfest, like, we're doing this grand meal. I would love if you were there, because I miss Sims reaching out for parties, for holidays. It just feels like the world around you does sometimes move along. Like, sometimes they adopt kids, sometimes they have a baby, sometimes they'll let you in on all of that and show you all of the gory details of their baby making decisions. However, they still don't pick up the phone to invite you to a birthday party or a holiday. And I know it used to happen. It apparently was patched and it was happening like more frequently. I think maybe before Lovestruck. I have still yet to see it. I've not seen the evidence. I feel like the longer you play a save, the more those things are actually knocked out. So it means that loads of us haven't seen it for like years and years now. This is just kind of that whole thing of so many things in the game need sorting out and actually looking into, and we finally need The Sims 4 to feel like it is alive. And not only is the world moving around you, but you're also part of that world. Because whilst this is heavily a single player game, right now it feels like a single sim experience, and that's not what a life simulation should be. I would love to hear your thoughts about this, and also if there's just any other systems that you think need refreshing, updating, cross-pack compatibility added to them. If there's anything that you are struggling with right now, maybe you've been playing with them for years and you kind of felt like you've experienced all there is to experience, or they're feeling quite restrictive and the systems that you think could definitely be looked at and reshaped to be made better, I would love to hear every single one of them in the comments down below. I am going to be feasting this Christmas reading through all of those. Big thank you to the modders, obviously, who are helping out make holidays a little bit better for those of us who can download mods. If you just have holiday ideas that don't need mods, then definitely let people know. I'm always blown away by people who can't download mods in CC and their creativity and how they actually like bend and mold the game to make it more interesting for themselves when it is just vanilla. And of course, I very much do appreciate that if you are helping out other Simmers. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye now.